And everyone, welcome to the Xperience. My name is Michael Lindenbaum, and as always, we are brought to you by Spartacon, which is August 15th and 16th at Blue Crab Stadium in Waldorf, Maryland. Come see stars from the show Spartacus like Manu Bennett, Dan Fergal, Dustin Clare, and Liam McIntyre, as well as many others from the show. For more information, please visit redserpents.com. And today, it is July 25th. It is Otakon weekend here in the Baltimore, D.C. area, and with me today is comic book artist Marc Adona. Marc, how you doing today, good sir?
I'm doing great, Mike. Thanks for having me on the show.
And not a problem. Now, I mentioned that it's Otakon weekend because when we met at TMO, which is this little small convention in Rockville.
Right.
Otakon is this massive anime convention that they do up in Baltimore every year, which will actually be moving to DC in 2017. When I saw you at T-Mode and then I saw you at AwesomeCon, what is a big difference for you as a comic book artist who vents at these conventions? What's the difference when you do it at a small show like T-Mode and a big show like AwesomeCon?
Well, it was a little more intimate. It's a smaller venue where, people who are starting in can really get into it and they're not overwhelmed by it. And you kind of get to know people a little more personable. With AwesomeCon, it's almost the same effect, but for me personally, that was like the first show where people were really interested in my own creative properties. So I had the same experience of people involved in the smaller venue in a larger convention. So AwesomeCon was amazing for me because people were just interested in creative properties by smaller independent companies. So I loved it. It's like my go-to show now. So.
Oh yeah, AwesomeCon has become a go-to for me now as well because of it literally lives up to its name. It is awesome. And actually, a funny thing about AwesomeCon is that I was actually trying to find you on the first day. I didn't find you until the second day, and then after I found you the second day, I couldn't find you again the rest of the weekend.
I actually heard that a lot from a lot of people because people came out this year for the show and they were saying they couldn't find me, but then they would find my banner. So they just expanded a lot for this coming year. So it worked out well, I guess, for them. But it was good for me, too.
Yeah, it was just funny because I was like, man, I got to find Marc. I want to talk to him. And then I found you the one time, but I had to take somebody somewhere else.
Yeah, I think I saw you.
And then I was trying to come back to the table like the next morning, and I couldn't find you again. I was like, oh, my God. This place is so huge, but it's so awesome at the same time. But yeah. So at AwesomeCon and at T-Mode, you're promoting a comic book. Right. Which comic book were you actually promoting, and what can you actually tell us about it?
Well, actually, I'm working on a series of graphic novels called Wandering Vagrants. And basically it follows three perfect strangers, Kazo, Ella, and Enzo, who each take this contract to assassinate this master wizard, Jiro. And with his last dying breath, he curses them with the eternally damned curse. So now their souls are joined together, so they can't separate. So now you have these perfect strangers who know nothing about each other, can't stand each other. They have to work together to find somebody to remove this curse, and it pretty much sets them out on these adventures of complete mayhem and adventure. So that's at least the gist of the the story. So.
And right now you're actually working on volume 3, correct?
Yeah, the first 2 volumes are out, and that kind of concludes the first story arc. So yeah, I'm definitely setting up the 3rd volume now. So.
Yeah, because I was looking at the Zan Press Facebook page, and I saw that you had just debuted 2 new characters.
Yeah.
One's actually going to be the new main villain. And is there anything you want to kind of go into on the 3rd volume, or you want to kind of keep it on the down low right now.
Well, the third volume is actually a new story arc, so it features Kana, my kind of Dragon Slayer character, and I've been wanting to introduce her in the last volume, but I didn't want to squeeze her in, so thought it'd be kind of cool to have this really cool female protagonist in the third volume, and complete new story arc. So the third volume definitely talks about or features dragons, so that's the main theme. So it puts our trio in a new set of adventures and problems for them. So it'll be a fun volume.
Now, I mentioned your Facebook page, Zanpress. When did you decide that you wanted to create Zanpress and make it what it is today? And what future goals do you actually have for Zanpress?
Well, I'd actually been doing comics for a while, but I was under another. I've changed names a few times, but around 2012, I finally stuck with Zanpress, and I really wanted to forge that as my company identity. And ever since then, I've been releasing books under that title and expanding. And I'd really just like to be a ground face for independent publications. So, putting out my own properties and hopefully featuring other people where I can release their own creative stuff. But really a face to just create our own properties.
And going back to conventions, because that's really where you get your name out there, get your art out there. Besides doing the conventions in the local DC, Baltimore, Virginia area, what are some conventions that are on your wish list to try to go to?
Oh, man. I definitely like to try San Diego. That's like the mothership. I've heard great things about Seattle.
Emerald City Comic Con is another one too, which is also in Seattle.
Really a great show for independent artists. So I love to try them, and maybe Chicago Con. So there are a few, but I really would like to try the Emerald City Con.
And have you ever tried Baltimore Comic Con?
Yeah, I actually go to Baltimore every year. Like Baltimore and Awesome Con are pretty much my flagships for this area. So
and explain to me, because I've actually never been to Baltimore Comic Con. We're working on trying to get me there at least one day this year. If not, we're going to try to get me there for the entire time next year. Explain to me Baltimore Comic Con. What, in your opinion, makes Baltimore Comic Con very special that makes it a go-to every year?
I think it's probably the first big convention in this area that people can actually go to. Not as big as San Diego, but it brings in top tier talent every year. At least the last 5 years, they have expanded a lot, and they've actually started doing 3-day shows since last year, I think. So, definitely more talents coming in, more locals are coming, and I think the more they put out, more word of mouth comes out, more people are coming to attend the show. But I think definitely with them having this 3-day show now, it's bringing in more attendance.
Yeah, because one thing I've heard, and I guess it can be considered a complaint amongst friends, is that Baltimore Comic Con, of the Comic Cons, being San Diego, New York, Baltimore, is really the only real comic con, because it still really just deals with comic books. Because San Diego has now become this outlet for Hollywood. New York Comic Con is now becoming this outlet for Hollywood as well, whereas Baltimore just sticks to the core of comic books. Does that also, in your opinion, make it even that more special than, say, New York or in San Diego, even though they're the much bigger conventions?
Oh, I agree. It's definitely a show where you can go to just about comics, and you want that experience with every show. I mean, I think if you go to a convention, you should be able to experience all the layers of what they're offering. And if your main thing is comics and you don't features that, then you kind of defeat the purpose of even having a comic convention if you're not going to even cover comics. You know, comics shouldn't be dismissed when you're in the midst of having this event about comics, you know. So, yeah, Baltimore is one of the few shows that actually still invests in the idea of a comic book convention about comics. So,
yeah, and what's your opinion? Because next weekend will be the first ever Wizard World Richmond. What's your opinion on Wizard World in general? Because there have been many people talking about how they're unhappy with you have to pay to get in, then you have to pay to get these packages to meet the celebrities, and now depending on the celebrity they have to pay to just get into a panel now. And then there have been reports about, you know, just little artists like yourself having to pay more than, say, a vendor just to have a table for 2 days. So what's your opinion on Wizard World? Have you ever thought about trying to work with them to get your name out there? Just overall on that.
I've actually done Wizard World a few times. I generally do the Wizard World Philly show. And I haven't had a problem with the celebrity stuff. I don't really involve myself with attending panels since I'm usually at a booth, but I can't really elaborate on that. But as far as a vendor, you know, their fees for tables are pretty much standard like everybody else. You know, you pay one flat fee and that's it, and you've got that table for the 3 or 4 day, whatever length of the show is. But Philly is usually okay for me. I mean,
yeah, because it's weird because like I've actually read articles where people are like, oh, well, when this Comic-Con was here before Wizard World bought them, you know, the fees would be like $50 for an artist table, and then it jumped up to like $300 for an artist table. You know, and it's like,
yeah, I never went there when they originally had the show or whoever they previously bought it from. So I came in when their fees were like the 300. So
yeah.
But I've heard artists talking about how things are treated, how their tables are spaced, and there's not a flow of traffic there for, you know, the artists, so people don't see them. And this, I guess, how Wizard just deals with, you know, their artist clientele. So I guess it really matters who you speak to regarding the issue. I mean, I know a lot of people who avoid Wizard and they attend some of the other larger shows. So you kind of find a preference of which shows work for you. Because one show may work for you, but it may not work for somebody else, you know.
Exactly. It's like you do a feeling out process. It's like, well, you know, Wizard was okay, but I left with a bigger debt than I would leave Otakon or AwesomeCon with. You know, so it's like you always look for what works for you. And speaking of that, because you do the conventions, you mentioned you did Wizard World Philly, T-Mode, AwesomeCon, Baltimore Comic-Con. There was a story that was released recently about a comic book artist who will show up to shows and take 4 other vendors' tables and just put his stuff up there and just place them. I don't remember the name of the person.
I remember seeing that.
Yeah. What's your opinion on that? It's like, you know, especially for you, it's like you put the money down for the table, and then this guy just comes in and goes, you know what? I'm taking these 4 tables, putting my stuff up, and I'm not even going to be at my table. You know, well, how would you feel if you were in the position of the person who just lost their table to some guy who just decided to take over?
Well, I've already put down the money, so I would have just gone straight to the coordinator for Artist Alley to resolve it. You know, I'm gonna approach the guy saying I had the table, especially because they assign you a table number. So if the issue can't be resolved that way, then I would have gone straight to the Artist Alley rep to really clear things up, because he's just got a problem, you know. And things like that happen. People will come in, they'll move your table number and sit there. And I've had somebody take over my table when I was at World Philly. This is crazy. But, you get random people. In most cases, people are pretty cool and you really get good table mates. But every now and then, you'll get a random and you have to resolve it. So.
Yeah, I just remember reading that article and I was like, man, you're a big name comic book artist. And it's like, why are you doing this to the people who are trying to, wouldn't you want to help them move up? And, competition, I don't like competition that much, but without competition, it doesn't bring you to the top of your game.
Yeah. I mean, you definitely got to respect the people by you. I mean, you're all working in the same to goal. So, definitely respect the artists around you. All you can do is help each other. So, but if you're going to just take over a massive area, you're disrespecting everybody around you. And that's not really fair to everybody.
And it defeats the purpose of being at a convention.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to do that, you might as well get the exhibit booth. That way you can spread out and you'll have more space. But to go in the artist alley and just take over, that's ridiculous.
Yeah. But, I knew I was having you come on, and I really wanted to talk about that with you because it was the perfect talking piece right there because, Ben Taylor and I do NBM wrestling with him. We do other stuff together, like at conventions where we will actually do live podcasting at. And he also works an artist table in the kids zone of both AwesomeCon and Baltimore Comic Con.
Right.
And one of the things that he would always say is, don't be a jerk. Of course, I'm making it the PG version of it. Don't be a jerk because, we all come to the conventions, whether you're an artist, you're a vendor, you're a celebrity, you're an attendee, whatever. We all come for the same purpose, and that's to have fun. And when you have these jerks coming in and, taking up your space that you paid for, or telling some little kid who's playing as if he's Batman that he's not Batman, which is an actual story that Ben shared with me on my podcast on an earlier episode that actually happened at Baltimore Comic Con.
Oh, man.
Yeah. It was so apparently some little kids playing is dressed up as Batman. He's playing around like Batman. And some guy who was just wearing a Batman mask and t-shirt just looked down at the kid and was like, you're not Batman. It's it's a kid. Why?
Yeah, I don't understand why. I mean, you're at this event. I don't understand why people feel the need to, I guess, be jerks, to say it nicely.
Yeah.
And then you've got these kids, let the kids be kids, They're at this event. It's a fun event, it's comics, everything possible can happen in this event, There's no need for you to be a jerk, to invade another person's space,
Yeah.
Because we're all there for the same thing, So.
And going on about the kids, have you actually ever done anything for any kids at the shows that you've been to? Have a kid come up and go, oh, that's really cool, and maybe you doodle something out for him or something? Have you done something like that?
Oh, man, I love when kids come by. I'm kind of a sucker for kids. I usually give them free things if there's things on my table that they like. Like, I was giving away the covers to my Dragon book for Wandering Vagrants, even though it wasn't out because I had done prints of it. But, yeah, I definitely love kids coming over. They come over, they ask questions, Their eyes are full of inspiration. So definitely if I can draw things or if I have something that will fit their age group, I'll definitely give it to them. But, man, I think it's great to just see kids there, To them, it's like a wonderland. And I'm always, enthused by giving some inspiration because you never know. This kid may be an artist, or want something art-related. So it's good to just give them, positive experience and feedback and just have them enjoy it. So.
Now, have you ever what is actually the best, I guess you could say, commission that you've ever done for a kid at a convention? Like, that you just kind of just drew it up on the spot for them?
Oh, man.
Making you think on that one, aren't I?
It's usually random things. Sometimes they'll ask for one of my characters. Yeah, but it's usually random things. Could be anything, but dragons are usually good, so.
And what inspired you to do stuff with dragons?
Oh, man, I love dragons. I love, fantasy and science fiction, so interested in both those realms, but thought it'd just be something cool to do in the realm of fantasy, and I've never really seen a lot of things with dragons in it, at least for comics, so thought it'd be different and a nice way to really go with it.
And it kind of give like a breath of fresh air a little bit, because
Yeah.
it's like, hey, there's something that's different. I haven't seen that before.
And there's not really a lot of fantasy books out there, so it's definitely something to be explored,
Yeah. And I'm trying to think of more questions. Well, actually, here's a good question for you. Now, obviously, you didn't start going to conventions as just an artist. You went to conventions as an attendee, correct?
Yeah.
Now, we brought it up earlier in the show. I'm coming back to it again now. Otacon's this weekend. Now, the one problem that everyone's having with Otacon is that it is the one convention, and I think it's the only convention on the East Coast that does not do day passes. Now, I would have gone today, but I'm not spending $100 to go for one day.
I don't think they're the only one that doesn't do that. I don't think Katsu does day passes either.
Now, I think Katsu does. I don't know. I've actually never been to KatsuCon. I think next year will be the first year I actually go to KatsuCon. But I believe they might. But Otakon, they go through their memberships. Now, yeah, if I had renewed in the beginning of the year to go this year, I'd still be paying $80 to go for one day.
Yeah, I saw that. That's why I didn't want to go.
And it was like $80 one day. Now, technically, Otacon's a 4-day con, even though they bill themselves a 3-day con. The 4th day would be Thursday because they have all this stuff going on outside for free. Now, okay, let's do the math real quick on this, because we're both con goers. I spend $80 to go to the convention. If I'm able to go all 4 days, that's $20 a day. Now, say I'm only able to go 3 days. 80 divided by 3, that's like what? $30-something a day to go? That's not bad. But to spend $80 to go for one day, that's a major hit on the wallet. And that's not including the parking that you have to pay for Baltimore.
Yeah, that's like $20 for parking.
Yeah, so now you're paying $100 to go for a day. Let alone if you want to go into the dealer's room and artist alley and spend money in there. So it's like, maybe hopefully when they move to DC in 2017, they'll go to day passes because it's the smart decision. But only time will tell. And I bring it up because you mentioned San Diego Comic-Con being essentially the mecca of cons in this country. They also have memberships, just like Otakon. But they have day passes for their members. So if the member can only go one day, they can go the one day and only pay for that one day pass and not have it be a big price for an entire weekend instead.
Well, I think as a venue, you kind of limit your audience when you force them to buy packages, and realistically, everybody can attend a show for 3 days. People work. Some people work the weekend, so being able to go on a Saturday or Sunday is ideal for people. A lot of people like to come with their families or groups of friends, so I think it's more, you bring in more business and more revenue for your convention if you're allowed options. And not having those options is critical because you lose people. I don't want to go to the show for 4 days, and 1 day is sufficient for me. I'm not there to set up camp and, roam around like a lot of people. But, it would have been nice to just, go up there with the family for the Saturday, shop around, look at some panels, pick up some new art from some new artists, and go home. But when you make this venue where you're forcing me to have to buy this pass for 4 days, and ideally that's not something I want to do for me. So
go on.
Definitely having it where you can do weekend passes or day passes. And that's how a lot of the Comic-Cons work. You've got the tier for the 3-day or 4-day event, and then they've got individual passes. So, and I think that's the best way to have the convention, because then you keep the flow of traffic and you don't lose traffic.
Yeah, and actually for me, normally I would go to all 4 days of Otakon because I would view it as my vacation.
Right.
I just wander around, make new friends all 4 days, and just have fun. But I'm not going to lie, most of the time, if there's not a panel I want to be at, I'm at the dealer's room or in Artist Alley.
And that's another thing. They do a raffle, so it's nearly impossible to get into the show. Like, I've tried, and...
Oh, for Otakon?
Yeah. A lot of shows well, we're going to raffle, and you put your name in, and we'll give you the bingo number, the lottery number, and you'll see if you get in. Otakon does it, Katsu does it, Small Press does it. So you've got this venue where you have to bid to get in, and it makes it difficult. So
yeah, because actually my youngest sister, she draws, and her and a friend who also draws, they wanted to do an artist table at Otakon, and they had to go through that, and the first moment that they read that they had to go for a lottery, they just went, not doing it. They literally just went, we're not doing it. So my sister is now 21.
All right.
So her and her friend who are trying to get into it, it's like they can't with Otakon.
It's tough because I think people that they know, those people get kind of priority since you've already had, foot in with the show. And then the new batch of people, they're put in the lottery system, and, you may get in, you may not get in, so.
Yeah, but luckily that's also why you have a smaller show like T-Mode.
Yeah.
Because that is a show that can help you out, and then if, say, Otakon has a presence there, or any other convention really has a presence there, and then they see you there, with your art, they can set you to somebody else and go, hey, talk to this person in this part of the convention, and we can see what we can do for you. That's one of the nice things about going to a smaller con like T-Mode. So... But, yeah. So, we've already done like 30 minutes. I've asked you a series of questions. I'm actually going to open up the floor to you, good sir. What would you like to talk about? That's PG. I've been having trouble trying to keep my guests PG.
Actually, what's the first show that you've attended? Or at least comic show?
The first... convention officially that I went to was like the Washington Auto Show, but that was because I wanted to meet John Cena and Tori Wilson of the WWE.
Right.
I only went there for them. It was a miserable experience. But my first actual in like actual convention, and I'm not going to include the Washington Capitals convention because that's just geared to the Capitals. It was Otakon. I've been to Otakon 4 times now. My first time was in 2010. And never we joke with me that I'm the late bloomer of everyone going into anime and comic books and all this other stuff. So going to Otakon in 2010 was a real eye-opener. Because I didn't know what cosplaying was. I didn't know that really these conventions existed, in all honesty.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I really didn't. And that was like 6 years ago.
Yeah,
so
I was blown up since then.
Yeah, I was 23 when I went to my first actual convention. And I'll be 29 this year. If I'm doing my math right. Wait, hold on. Trying to do my math right. Yeah, well, kind of. Yeah, about 5-ish years. Because that was also the year I started the job that I have now.
Right.
So I'm trying to make sure the math is right. I was like 23 when I went. And yeah, it really opened my eyes because I'd never seen cosplay before. I'd never been to a panel before. I had never been to a dealer's room before. I'd never done that stuff. So just going to Otakon in 2010, it really opened my eyes to everything. And then the next convention I went to was obviously Otakon in 2012. I couldn't do 2011. I did Otakon 3 years straight, last year being the 3rd straight year in a row, 4th overall for Otakon. I've been to Anime USA now, which is actually where my film Cosplay Life debuted.
Oh, cool.
Currently working on trying to bring the film back, but there's been some changes at that convention that's bringing some difficulties. I've been to Intervention.
How's that show?
It's a good show. It really is. Oni and James, they do a really good job with that convention. It's actually the same weekend as Spartacon. So I'll be making a brief appearance at Intervention on the Friday and then going off to Spartacon for the Saturday and the Sunday.
Okay.
Here, obviously AwesomeCon. So, yeah, and then, of course, T-Mode. So I've been to the first convention, definitely Otakon, and it really just opened the door to coming to all the other conventions. Yeah, Otakon was the gateway. It's a gateway.
Funny, I've never been to that show at all.
Yeah, Otakon was my gateway drug to conventions. We'll go with that line. The gateway drug to conventions is Otakon.
Well, that's a good starter. That's like, I guess, the mothership here. This coast. So.
Well, it's like what? I think it's the biggest anime convention on the East Coast, and the second biggest anime convention in the country.
Oh, wow.
So, and that's even with the restrictions that the city of Baltimore is putting on them for the convention center.
Yeah, and I hear they're doing like construction there, so those guys are moving to the DC Convention Center.
Yeah, they signed like a 5-year deal with DC. Starts in 2017.
Yeah, that's what I hear. So,
and supposedly that cap is supposed to get lifted, so they could be going back to like 80,000 people again.
Wow.
So,
do you think that cap has anything to do with their the passes, or?
Definitely not. Definitely not, because it was like this before the cap.
Okay.
It's why I say I hope when they move to DC, they not only do they remove the cap, which I think will happen, but I also think that they should also go to day passes as well, because it's a smarter decision, especially going into Washington, D.C.
Oh, I definitely agree.
Because you're going to have people coming to DC for Otakon, but at the same time, there's a lot more to do in DC than there is to do in Baltimore.
Yeah.
Because, okay, you got Camden Yards across the street, so yeah, you can go to an O's game if they're in town the weekend. Okay, you got the National Aquarium. You got the Inner Harbor. Okay. But it doesn't fulfill everything. Whereas in DC, you have the monuments, you have all these museums. Yeah, okay, Baltimore's getting a casino now. Whoop-de-doo. I wouldn't even walk in there even if you paid me to. So, but yeah, so there could be people that are coming out of town and go, you know what? I don't get to go to DC that often. Let me do maybe Friday and Saturday at Otakon. And then let me go do, or let me do Saturday, Sunday at Otakon. And let me do Friday, Thursday walk around DC.
Yeah, it definitely gives them accessibility. And then you've got the metro so they can go anywhere they want, you know. So you've definitely got the convention and all the attractions in DC. So I think it's a good deal for people, you know, especially if you've never been, like you said, you know. Go to the show part of the day, go take a tour, come back, go see some panels, you know. And
not only that, but it's the same venue as AwesomeCon.
Yeah, I know.
So, and you saw the size of AwesomeCon this year.
Yeah, crazy.
It was a good one. Now, have you done AwesomeCon all 3 years?
No, the first year they had it, I was at T-Mode.
Okay.
And my best friend was at the show, and he was like, "This show's crazy. You need to be here." I'm like, "I know. I'm sorry." But yeah, I've been there the second and third year, so
I'm the same deal. I was there the second and the third year. The first year, I couldn't afford to go. I really wanted to go, but I couldn't make it happen.
Yeah, I heard all types of great things about that first show, just from other artists, how the best show they ever had. You know, people were buying that stuff. They were just making crazy money with their stuff. So, and that's the second year. Go ahead.
No, go on.
Yeah, my first year there was awesome. Like, that was like the best show I'd ever had ever. I mean, just people were just so, you know, happy to meet me and picking up my stuff and really interested in original books. So it was phenomenal. I was talking about that show for like 6 months. I couldn't wait for the next show.
We're still talking about it now.
So, I mean, I love what those guys are doing. I think DC needs that type of show. So I think it's a well-added attraction there. And I think it's a great show for people who are doing indie comics, because there's an audience there with people who want that type of content. So I always recommend everybody to try the show and just get a table there, because you won't be disappointed, you know. Great staff of people running it, so.
Yeah, and I know the guy who runs the convention. He's a friend of mine, Ben Penrod.
Yeah.
He does an amazing job making AwesomeCon what it is.
Yeah, and I was actually attending his other show, the Annapolis Con, so I tend to go to that one too. But yeah, I definitely like what they've done with Awesome. You kind of get the indie comics, celebrity, comic convention all in one, so it seems a little more well-rounded on the spectrum of things, you know. Yeah. Where sometimes at conventions, comics kind of gets lost, even though it's supposed to be about a comic convention. So they've done a really great job of giving you that complete attraction. So,
and one of the nice things I think that they did this year was, or actually every year that they've done it, but this year in particular, is the way they set up the celebrities this time. You literally had to go through the vendors and the artists to get to them. And they've done it every year. But like with last year, they were like right on top of the artists. The celebrities were. and then they pushed them further away, like the photo ops and all that other stuff. They pushed them further away from the artists so the artists could also have room to breathe. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. By having the celebrities set up the way they were, it was a really smart and, in a way, strategic way to get more awareness on the artists, because it's like, hey, you have to go for them to get to the celebrities.
Yeah.
And then as you're getting to the celebrities, you could stop and go, oh man, that looks really cool, and then stop and then start taking a look at the art on the artist table.
I agree. It definitely a great design floor plan because it makes you see the complete convention and not just a part of it. So definitely commend them on, laying out things where everybody attending the show actually tastes everything at the event, and you don't really get that at a lot of shows.
Yeah.
Sometimes the artist alley are cut off and people never know what's back there. It's like a wasteland. So.
Yeah, and I'm already saying it right now. I can't wait for next year.
Yeah, me neither.
I already have 2 conventions on my list for next year. It's AwesomeCon and Power Morphicon 5 in Pasadena, California.
Oh, man. Is that their first year or?
That's their 5th one.
Wow.
Power Morphicon, which is the Power Rangers convention, right. It's every other year. So there isn't one this year. Power Morphicon 5 is next year. And it's August 12th through 14th. And wow. I have already started my preparations with my friend Brian Massey to go. So that will be fun. Cool. And maybe, I don't know, it depends on when Otakon announces next year. I may try to go to them again next year.
Yeah, but they usually do around July, so
like late July, early August. Yeah. Because that's the thing, if they're too close to Power Morphicon, I'm going to have to skip the last show in Baltimore for Otakon because I'm already putting all the money into going to California for the Power Ranger convention.
Right.
So
that show's probably going to be nuts. They're probably going to have all the original cast.
Well, not all original cast, but they do bring in like almost all of the Power Rangers that they've ever used or had.
Definitely get Jason Frank.
Well, see, it's funny that you bring up Jason David Frank because, as you know, because you're there at AwesomeCon, they had Austin St. John, David Yost, Walter Jones, and Karen Ashley. And there's always been, and I'm part of these Power Ranger communities on Facebook and whatnot, and the number one thing I always hear is that there's beef between Austin and Jason.
Yeah, my friend mentioned that to me when I was at AwesomeCon.
And
I didn't know about it.
But. And apparently that Jason has in his contract, first of all, Jason David Frank has like a Wizard World exclusive contract. And within that contract, he's able to do, I think, 3 other shows outside of Wizard World, as long as they don't conflict with Wizard World. And for him, those other conventions, along with Wizard World, he gets to pick, or he gets the final say on what other Rangers can be at the show with him.
Oh, man.
and apparently when Austin St. John first started coming back to do shows last year, one of the shows, or one of the very first shows that was announced, which was, I think, Miami Comic-Con, in Miami, Florida. I know it was a Florida-based convention.
The MegaCon?
Or no, it might have been Space Coast Con. I don't remember the name, I just know it's in Florida. Jason David Frank was originally scheduled for it. And then they announced that Austin was going to be on the show. Or at the show. And then, like, the next day, Jason David Frank announced that he had to back out of the show due to a commitment to his daughter. Which everyone didn't buy into. And, like, for me, okay, I'm not going to the show, so it doesn't affect me. But the backlash that came out from it on Jason was huge.
Well, sure. I mean, people are probably attending that show, especially if they were fans of his and he decides he's going to back out.
Well, it's not necessarily that. It comes down to, well, as soon as Austin got announced, Jason and Frank came up with an excuse to not be at the show.
Oh, no, I see that too. But,
and that was the number one thing everyone went after. Because, and I've met Jason David Frank, and he is an amazing human being. One of the nicest guys I've ever met. And actually, you know what? I'll tell this story. Otakon 2011. Jason David Frank was there. This was before the Wizard World deal.
Ah, I didn't even know he came out this far.
Yeah. Well, he's going to be at Richmond for Wizard World next weekend.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, he will be there for that. Now, Otakon 2011. Yeah, 2012. My bad. 2012. I am going to acting school up in Timonium, Maryland, which is like 20 minutes away from Baltimore.
Yeah.
I had taken my final exams on the Thursday of Otakon. I drive over, I pick up my pre-reg badge, get together with my friends, and we start celebrating because I passed all my final exams for acting school, and I was going to graduate the next week. The very next day of the Friday, I hop in line for Jason David Frank for the autograph session.
Oh, man.
Only a quarter of his line got to go in, and I was part of that quarter that got in. I got to meet him. I actually paid for the photo op to get my picture taken with him, which you see on my Facebook page as my cover photo. As you just suddenly just jump onto my Facebook page to look at that. And I tell him, it's like, I just took my final exams for acting school yesterday, and I'm graduating next week. I really hope I get an opportunity to work with you. And that was in the autograph line. Now, a couple hours later, I actually am in the photo op line, and then he grabs lunch real quick, which is cool because he needs to eat too. I always find that funny. Everyone gets mad, like, how dare he go take a break? Guy, he's human just like you too, you know? It's like, the guy's got to eat. You know? Eventually, we got to eat too, but I'll wait in line for the man. And then, so he has lunch, and then he's actually in the Green Ranger suit as you do the photo op with him. And he, I get up to him, we chat, we do 2 photos. We do one where we're just posing and one where it's like a fight pose. And the fight pose, I believe, is the one that I have on my Facebook. And, you know, so him and I, you know, but the great thing about Jason was is that he made it an intimate moment where you got to spend at least 5 minutes talking to him, which was really nice.
Yeah, that's
and
very
so,
cool.
and I was telling him, it's like, yeah, I just graduated acting school, or I'm about to graduate acting school. This is what I really want to do. If anything, heck, if you would just want to have me on set so you could beat me up, I'll do it. And he was like, dude, that's so awesome. And, you know, we talked, and that was it. And then I hopped in line for his Q&A panel. Now, as you could tell, this is all still Friday. And when I get into line for the Q&A panel, it's like 2 p.m.
Whoa.
So I literally went from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. just standing in line for an autograph and a pitch, to only going back to standing in line for the panel for just one person. 3 lines, 1 person. Now there's going to be a 4th line. So while we get into the Q&A, I get a really good seat, and then they open up the floor for questions. So I run up to the microphone, I get a good spot. I'm actually in a decent spot. And Jason David Frank now has a lot of tattoos.
Yeah, he does.
He has a lot of tattoos now. And of course everyone's asking him Power Ranger questions and all this other stuff. So I literally just went up to him and went, what was the inspiration for your tattoos? And he started telling the story about a couple tattoos and blah, blah. And then he shows off his left bicep. And he has, like, gambling stuff, like cards, casino, slot machines, stuff like that, dice. And he says, I have this tattoo here because it reminds me that you got to take gambles in life. And he's like, I don't gamble. But what I did do is I sold my entire comic book collection and bought the karate school I was in.
Oh, wow.
And then he turned it into acting advice for me. And then he said in front of everyone, and there's about 500 people in this room. It was like one of the bigger panel rooms. He said, after meeting you earlier today, you have what it takes to make it in this business, and I hope I get to work with you in the future.
That's pretty cool.
And everyone didn't applaud him. They started applauding me. And I have a couple tears swelling up in my eyes because having something like that said to you in front of that type of crowd, that means something.
Oh, yeah.
It really does.
It shows a lot that he actually remembered you
to say that.
And brought it back up.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
And,
that's where you get somebody like that.
Yeah, and it was, people were high-fiving me as I was going back to my chair. It was it was a surreal moment. And then I got to meet Austin for the first time at AwesomeCon.
This year?
Yeah, this year.
Yeah.
And I asked him about it, and I said, listen, I don't care what everyone says online. I respect you, and I respect Jason. I hope you two, whatever is going on, that you two bury the hatchet, because I would love to see you two do something together again. And Austin said, thank you for that, because it shows that there are people who don't care about whatever garbage is being thrown around online. And it's funny, too, because Austin St. John on his table, and I want to throw this out to the people who listen to this and who are Power Ranger fans. Austin St. John has a picture on his table of him with Jason David Frank from Power Rangers Zeo. If Austin is willing to sell that picture at his table with Jason David Frank in it, obviously he probably doesn't have that much of an issue with Jason David Frank, as everyone wants to put it out to be.
Yeah. Well, hopefully they can work out whatever the problem is,
Yeah. But, I mean, would it be great to see Jason and Frank at Power Morphicon with Austin St. John, David Yost, Walter Jones, Amy Jo Johnson, who also doesn't do conventions that much because she does more acting and directing now?
Yeah, I've noticed her.
Yeah, and Karen Ashley and Steve Cardenas and, Johnny Young Bosch, who I've met as well. Great guy as well. I met him at Anime USA last year in DC.
Oh, nice.
And Anime USA last year was my birthday weekend.
Oh, cool.
So I actually got to spend my birthday weekend with Johnny Young Bosch. But that's a story for another day. Because we are running up on time, good sir. But, yeah, to see all of them at Power Morphicon next year as a group again, that would be really great. But it's literally a time will tell.
Well, you never know. Maybe things will work out between now and then. And
well, yeah, like I said, time will tell. And if we get it, awesome. If not, it's not the end of the world. It's really not.
True.
Some people make it like it's the end of the world.
Well, people get invested, and I think.
Well, I mean, I'm invested, but I don't let it ruin my life. You know, it's like when San Diego came out, or when Bandai came out with the Power Ranger San Diego exclusives, I looked at everything. I was like, okay, yeah, the vinyl bobblehead. I'm not really interested in that, but I'll probably pick one up later anyways. Like off of eBay, because they're always up on there.
Yeah.
Okay, the Legacy Black and Gold Saba, that looks kind of... Actually, it looks cooler than last year's Golden Dragon Dagger. But I'm not going to spend the money on it because it's going to be expensive on eBay. But the Mighty Morphin Power Ranger Dino Charger pack, yeah, that's really cool. I want that because it can go well with that key pack that I got from last year. And that's what I did, and it came in the mail this week.
Oh, cool.
So, I mean, when they do that type of stuff, it's like, yeah, you're invested, but you also gotta be realistic with your investment at the same time.
This is true.
So, but Mr. Adona, plug yourself. Where can we find you? What are your upcoming appearances?
Well, I'm going to be at this year's Baltimore Con, September 25th through the 27th, so definitely people can catch me there. I'll definitely have copies of Wanda and Vegas Volume 1 and 2, along with some extra stuff, but definitely a chance to come talk, meet, get a free sketch. So that'll probably be my last show for the year, I think. So,
What about Twitter, Facebook? Give those a plug.
yeah, I'm on Facebook, Zampress. You can also follow my art page, Marc Adona. And then I have my wanderingvagrants.com and Marc Adona and Tumblr. So definitely catch me at any of those ports and give me a holler.
And of course, everyone can follow me on Twitter at the Lindenbaum75. That is at the Lindenbaum, Lindenbaum, the number 75. I do a lot of stuff on there. And then, of course, on Facebook, you all can follow me on facebook.com/X75 Productions, which is where I post all the podcasts. And eventually I'll be posting about some new projects that I'll be doing, as well as a new podcast that I'll be doing for the hockey season. I cannot wait to be doing that one. And as always, the experience is brought to you by Spartacon, which is August 15th and 16th at Blue Crab Stadium in Waldorf, Maryland. Come see stars from the show Spartacus like Manu Bennett, Dan Fergal, Dustin Clare, Liam McIntyre, and many others from the show. For more information, please visit redserpents.com, and I will also be there myself. So until next time, see you on the flip side.